Hello guys, this is our study guide for week 6. You want to make sure that you read carefully through chapter 6 in William Fullilove's Introduction to Hebrew. And you may want to follow Joel's advice, Joel Long, and look at the YouTube videos where Fullilove explains the material. When we do vocabulary this week, some of the words we know already: ish, man. Tavek is noun in middle of. It's also used in combination with other words. Yod is hand, or sometimes it can mean forearm. Asa, we've known from before, do, make. Al, on, upon, sometimes it can mean in front of. Ra means bad. Tov means good. Yom is sea. Sometimes I confuse that word with yom, but yom is sea. Kol is voice. Paneh is face, but usually it's in the dual or in the construct paneh or lifneh. This root is related in the verbal form to turn, and another form of the noun means corner. I'm not sure what all that has to do with face, but they are related words. Ayin is eye. It can also mean fountain. Kodesh is a holy thing. I'm most familiar with this word, Kadshe Kodashim, the holy of holies, the most holy thing. Shanaim is the word for two, and of course it's in a dual. Yom, we are familiar with that, Yom Echad. Asa is make, so I guess we have that 2 times. We can omit the second one. I'll omit that now. Bavel is just the word Babel. Makom is place. El is to or toward. Now, when you're studying vocabulary, you may want to use a tool that you can get in Logos. Stephen McKenzie's Building Your Hebrew Vocabulary. I bought this as part of a package, and he's doing what we're doing, learning words by frequency and cognate, but it's helpful because he lists similar words. And even if you don't memorize from this tool, if you get it and read it, you realize how much every single word that you memorize will help you with lots of other words. So some of you have wondered why with verbs they don't give the pointing. I'm not sure why. Some resources give the pointing, some don't. This is the verb form, and it's to eat. Well, this word, okale, so if this is akal or something, okale is food. Ekal is nourishment. Okla is food. And these words only appear a few times, so if you have the root, you may have a hint what these mean. So if you have amar, to say, amer is a noun word. Imra is a word. You have the noun bow. Tabu'ah is produce. And it's funny that I'm reading through this list because I've read this word many times, and I had no idea what it came from. I just memorized it as produce. But once you see that it's that same root, it's like what the land produces, what comes forth, or what the land causes to come forth. Mebo, so if this is the root to go in, mebo is an entrance. And then we're familiar with this, davar, speak. Davar in the noun form is word. This is the verb to be, haya. And you can see, can you not, how close the tetragrammaton is to the word to be. So if you were tempted to read this as a verb, it would be something like he is who he is, he was who he was, he will be who he will be. You would be reading it as an imperfect of constant existence from this word. The tetragrammaton is abbreviated sometimes with the word Yah. Of course, we're familiar with that on the end of words. Halak is go, Yada is no. And if this is no, can you see how this verb form, feminine verb form, da'at, is simply knowledge or understanding. Madua, you see the related root, this is the word why. Yid oni, kind of a knowing spirit. So if you memorize this one word, yada, you have a leg up to do all these others. Yalad is to give birth. A yeled is what is caused to give birth. Toledoth is descendants. The word may mean more than that. With these, or the Toledoth, the asterisk says that it's a word that only occurs in the Hebrew Bible. Yalad, moledeth, so we're going to learn segolets. This is a segolet word, descendants. Yalid is a son. So you can see how in Hebrew, with the normal three radical word, if you associate other words, it's building off of that. So it's a great way to build your vocabulary. Again, this is Mackenzie's building your Hebrew vocabulary, and you can get it on Logos. What we're doing in chapter 6 in Full of Love is some kind of leftover things. Cyclic nouns are unusual in that they're accented on the first syllable, not on the last. There are a lot of cyclic nouns. The one I'm most familiar with is melech, king. Geminate nouns this has to do with the word twin. And when you make a geminate noun plural, often that consonant is doubled. And then you have some irregular plurals where it's a masculine word, but it looks like it's a feminine plural. And there are rules. Full of is very good. He's giving us those rules. It's my experience that if you're aiming at just volume reading, you don't have to know exactly why it does what it does. If you just memorize these handful of words do have strange plurals. Full Love points out that there are two types of prepositions. One will be attached to the word, one will not be attached to the word. If that word has the definite article, it will lengthen the shavah if it's an attached preposition. And then what I want you to spend the majority of your time doing this week is to carefully read through Genesis 1 to 10, and you want to get where you can just read through this whole thing just in a short period of time, you want to make sure you listen to the MP3 reading, and we want to copy that as well as we can. So don't copy me. Look at me. I'm a fellow learner, but the gold standard will be those MP3 from Macon, the Macon website. But I will read through it here, and it may be that when you do this, sometimes I find that it will help me if I can see the words very big, and so I'm just going to blow these up where it will be very big for us. And so this will be our text. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim va'et haaretz, v'haaretz hayita tohu vavohu, vechoshek al pnei techom, veruach Elohim merachefeth. I guess it's merachefet, even though it's a begad fat without the dogish line. If we're following modern pronunciation, you don't add the H, even though the rule says you would. So we'll go with merachefet al pnei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayehi or. Vayar Elohim et haor kitov, vayavdel Elohim bein haor uvein chahoshek, vayikra Elohim laor yom, ve'lachoshek kara laila, vayhi erev, vayhi boker yom echad. Vayomer Elohim yehi rakia, betok, that's that tavek word from our vocabulary, in the middle of. Batok hamayim, vayehi mavdil vein mayim lemayim, va'ya'as Elohim et ha-rakia, va'yavdel bein hamayim esher me tahat la rakia uvein ha-mayim esher me'al la rakia, vayhi kain. Vayikra Elohim la rakia shemayim, vayhi erev, vayhi boker yom sheni. Vayomer Elohim yikavu hamayim me tahath hashemayim el makom, that's a word from our vocabulary, el makom echad, va ta'ra'e hayabesha vayhi kain. Vayikra Elohim la yabesha eretz ul mikveh. You might be familiar with that word. Mikveh is in a Jewish culture a thing where you take a bath. Ul mikveh chamayim kara yamayim vayar Elohim kitov. So when you do your presentations, we'll do one per in beginning, so it doesn't have the word the there in beginning. Elohim created Hashemayim dual and the earth. It's interesting that in verse 2 he doesn't talk about Hashemayim first, he talks about Haaretz first. Haaretz hayita tohu va bohu. And so for years, some people would say, translate this became, the earth became, so you had original perfect creation, and then the earth became this judgment and chaos. Very few people hold to that now. saying rather when God created it, it was created as tohu vabohu, creating it as this dead, dark thing, and then God would bring order to it. The hoshek, this is the word darkness. If we looked at the related verbal root, it has to do with restraint. And so we would need to ask the question, why is darkness thought of as restraining something? And darkness was on the faces of, that paneh word that we're learning. This is in the construct. We'll learn what the construct is, but you add the word of right here, on the faces of the deep, and the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit. Also, this is the word wind, and so at the crossing at the Red Sea, you have the Ruach Elohim is there, and so you have to decide, okay, are you going to translate them the same way both places, or are you going to translate them differently and footnote? But here we have the Ruach Elohim, and then this is a PL feminine participle. So if you look on our verb sheet, the feminine participle is going to be a segolit that ends with a tav, and PL participles will have this mem prefix, then they'll have a doubled middle radical. This can't double the middle radical because it's a segolit, so this is the PL participle from rahaf, and it's a very unusual word. Some Jews take this as the Spirit was attacking. I think it may be a positive word. Was loving this dead, dark thing, but it was doing it upon the faces of the water. So again, this is construct from paneh. It's plural construct, on the faces of the dual waters. And we don't know why water is in the dual, but you can clearly see that mayim is a dual. And Elohim said, we've been told that there are 10 uses of that, or it may be that we want to look at that for ourselves and see if that's true or not. Elohim said, let there be light. So this is the jussive, same form as the imperfect, but the context would suggest jussive. Elohim said, let there be light, and the result was, and there was light. And Elohim saw the light, that it was ki tov. So that's our vocabulary word for today, that it was good. And he, that is Elohim, Yav Deil. And if you look at the verb chart, you'll see that that's a hiphil. Often hiphils will have this patha in the prefix, and this is a converted imperfect. And Elohim divided between the light and between the hoshek, between the darkness. And then we have a second element in this formal order. God said, God divided, God called. God called to the light, yom, another vocabulary word for today. And to the hoshek, kara. So this is a converted perfect, imperfect. This is just the perfect. And to the darkness, he called la'ilah, night. And there was evening, and there was morning, Yom Echad, day one. If you ask a Jewish person when a day begins, a lot of Jews would say the day begins in the afternoon, and you would say, well, why in the world do you say that? And some Jews will say, well, because the first day had an evening first, and then a morning, day one, so that a biblical day has an evening before a morning. Now, many scholars will totally doubt that and contradict that. You do have things like the Day of Atonement being celebrated on the evening of the 9th through the morning and afternoon of the 10th. It seems to me that the Passover works off of that the Passover starts the day before, and then sometime in the afternoon, the 14th day passes into the 15th day. But that's something you're going to need to look at on your own. Look at all the information, compare all the text, see what the ancient data is, and see where it takes you. So we come to the second day. So this is the second Vayomer. And Elohim said, another Joseph, let there be a rakia. And we don't know what the rakia is, at least until we look at lots of other text. The triradical root, resh, kof, ayin, is used of like stamping something flat. So the censors in Korah's rebellion are rakad on the side of the altar. One text talks about stamping mud with your feet, and the mud just flies out of the way. The surface of the earth is spoken of as God rakaing the surface of the earth. If you're interested in biblical theology, there is a paranomasia with the word baka, so that would be bait kof ein. When God splits the Red Sea, he bakas it. I don't know if there's an intended connection there or not. Certainly at the Red Sea, you have the parting of waters, you have Yahweh appearing. You have it done in the darkness, you have God as light, and you have salvific space. So I don't know, but I'm just going to translate this rakia and then let the rest of the Bible fill out exactly what this is talking about. Then betok, so we have that word tavek in our vocabulary. And this is simply the construct form again. So in the middle of, the construct form we're going to learn later implies the of. And then this is the word that governs it. So in beginning of the waters. And so you might say, well, why don't you say in the beginning? Well, when you have a word in construct, you never put the definite article on the construct word. So it gets its definiteness from the governing noun. So in the middle of the waters. So if it's the waters, it's going to be the middle. That's how it's going to work. And let it be, and this is a hiphial participle. You see the standard hiphial, and the hiphial has the main and often this A-class vowel. Let it be a thing constantly separating between the waters to the waters. And in the formal study of Genesis 1, you might ask the question, well, why is it that the rakia is doing what God is doing on day one? On day one, God is badaling between light and darkness, and now the rakia is badaling between waters and waters. And that's probably a fair question. We probably have to think about why that may be the case. And God made et definite direct object, so et made the rakia, and either the rakia or God caused the separation. I think that's the same form in day one. Caused the separation between the light and between the waters which were from underneath to the rakia. So this is from, and then this is underneath. To, and then this is the, and then this is rakia. From the underneath to the rakia. And from the waters which were from upon. So that's an inseparable preposition. This is another preposition. So from upon to the rakia. And it was so. Then just like day one, after God separates, he calls. It's interesting that this is actually the name of one of the books in the Pentateuch. Once they build the tabernacle, God calls to them. And so that book, Leviticus, is Yikra, and God called. And Elohim called to the Rakia Shemaim. So what is the Rakia? It's the Shemaim. The heavens, the dual heavens. We don't really know why it's a dual, but it's saying that's what the Rakia is. And there was evening, and there was morning, a second day. And if you look at English translations, everyone translates it the second day. But you tell me, do you see a definite article there? I don't see a definite article. I don't see a definite article until day 6. And so it makes me wonder, why is it day 1, but then it goes to a second day, a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day, the 6th day? I don't know. We'll have to think about that. And Elohim said, so this is repeating that same theme. Now this is the second thing. Let the waters, and this is a jussive, but it's nifal. Let them be gathered. And for those of you who can read Greek, you might look at the Septuagint, and it's going to talk about the waters synagoguing together. Let the waters, be gathered together. And it's like, what in the world is, what's going on there? Let the waters be gathered from underneath the Shemaim to Echad Makom, to place one, to one place. And interestingly enough, this would imply, would it not, that the waters above are not collected yet to one place. So I'm not sure what to make of that, but just looking at the text. And then this is a Nifal Joseph from Ra'ah, and let Yabeshah be seen. And it's Te, because it's second feminine, singular, because Yabeshah is feminine. Do you see that? And let the Yabeshah be seen, and it was so. And Elohim called to the Yabeshah Eretz. So that raises an issue when it says God created the heavens and the earth on day 1. Should we think of earth in terms of a ball, or should we think of the raw material? And I'm not sure, but here it's the land. Let the Elohim call to the Yabeshah dry earth. This is day 2. I think we're still in day 2. No, we're in day 3. To the Yabeshah Eretz. And to the collection of waters he called. And do you notice how you have a converted imperfect here, and then you have a perfect? And did you notice you had that same formula up above with a converted imperfect and a perfect? And to the collection of waters he called oceans. That's our vocabulary word. And actually, it's one of the irregular nouns because it's doubling that last radical. And God saw that it was good. All right, so have fun, read over this, be prepared to present in class. Appreciate you guys' hard work, and we'll have a great Thursday together, so I'll see you then.